I'm Angelo Di Mambro. I'm the agri-food editor at Euractiv. Leading the panel on making the most of the new EU GI regulation. The program, according to the program, Paolo De Castro and Nicola Bertinelli had to talk with, together with Diego Canga Fano for introducing the topic, but Paolo De Castro and Nicola Bertinelli will speak after the panel. So for now I would invite Diego Canga Fano, is Director in charge of Outreach, Research and Geographical Indication, DG Agri, European Commission, to speak, to present it. Yeah, please.
Buenas tardes.
Good afternoon. I'm going to speak in Spanish. The speaker says he's going to speak in English as well, and when Paolo is here, he's going to speak in Italian. So, first of all, I would like to congratulate AREPO for its 20th anniversary, and I want to thank Origin EU, AREPO, Euromontana, and the Committee of the Regions for having organized this event. Of course, I want to also greet Mercedes Moran and Karine Mordan, which is the rapporteur of the Committee of the Regions, and the regulation will be approved by the 15th of May, more or less. The regulation has to be signed tomorrow, then we will have to look for a slot in the official journey, and then 20 days later the regulation will enter into force. So you can calculate that more or less in a month the regulation will be approved, will enter into force. So now he's going to speak in English because his speech is in English, and then when Paolo is here, he will speak in Italian.
Origin and possess qualities or reputation that are due to that origin. GIs, geographical indications, are collective intellectual property rights, and they are legally protected. Studies on GIs found that the sale value of a product with a protected name is roughly two times the price of a product without certification. So GIs are a powerful tool for European farmers and producers to valorize their food and drink producers, as well as for sustaining local economies, as it was said before, having a transformative impact on rural areas, and they cannot be delocalized. The European Union has roughly 3,600 GIs, 3,600 GIs, with a value of 80 billion euros. So let me make already in parenthèse. One day, someone should organize a meeting of the 3,600 GIs. You need a football stadium for that, more than a football stadium. But I find I've been working in this area of geographical indications since 10 years now. There is a family of the European GIs. A lot of people of the family are in this meeting room. One day, someone should organize a meeting of the 3,600 European GIs. It would be a fantastic communication exercise. It would be a fantastic event to boost the European names, because we have very famous European names. We have the Bayerische beer, Champagne, Irish whiskey, Kalamata olives, Parmigiano Reggiano, and while I'm with someone of Extremadura, La Torta del Casar, or Polish vodka. So the names, they have a history, and there's the history and the protocol together makes these famous geographical indications. Now, the new regulation. the new regulation, the starting point is what President von der Leyen requested Commissioner Wojciechowski in the mission letter, the need to strengthen the system of geographical indications. And the Commission approved the proposal in March 2022 after a broad consultation process. And by the way, we consulted, a lot of people in this meeting room were consulted about the draft proposal. Then on the 24th of October 2023, there was a political agreement between Parliament and Council. Last 27th of February, the Parliament has given the final green light, and the Council is about to have the agreement. So as I said before, once we have everything, 20 days of entry into force, and roughly around the 15th of May, the new regulation will be in place. Now, if I have to talk about the new GI regulation, I want to frame three things. First of all, it's simpler, it is stronger, and it has an increased focus on sustainability. First of all, simpler. So the introduction of one GI regulation, so we are merging three into one. We're putting wines, spirits, and food into one regulation, with caveats I will mention in a moment, creates a simpler legal environment. Now, the legal framework is also very much streamlined because we have strict deadlines that have been introduced. For example, mandatory deadlines for us in the Commission to examine applications, plus the procedures have been optimized, for example, in case of oppositions, amendments, and cancellations. So the different rules on the GI's procedure have been merged and are common for the three sectors, food, wine, and spirits, and this makes things simpler. Now, the simpler legal framework will make shorter registration times, and we expect to increase the attractiveness of the schemes for producers, especially in countries with few GIs, because it's not a secret that we have Italy with almost 800, France with 700, then Spain with 400, Portugal, Greece, but we have some member states with very little amount of GIs, and we would like to have more GIs in those countries. Now, the controls of compliance with the product specification for food and spirit drink sectors have been tailored to the GI's needs and harmonized. And for wine, control rules were maintained in the Common Market Organization. However, the enforcement applies for the three sectors. Second message, stronger. The new legislative regulation will reinforce producer groups and include new rules for setting up a system of recognized producer groups on a voluntary basis. So GI producer groups are empowered for better GI's management, and their tasks have been extended and detailed. For example, they can represent their members, so the recognized producer groups can take action to improve the performance of the GIs. They, very important, they can agree on sustainable practices. I will come back later on sustainability. And they can undertake promotion activities and advertising campaigns. Again, very important, recognized producer groups. Member States can endorse recognized producer groups on a voluntary basis, and they are free to adopt alternative criteria of eligibility, which should evidently guarantee the representativeness of all producers of the GIs. The new rules, by the way, will also increase the protection of GIs when mentioned in the sale name of pre-packaged processed product, which uses them as ingredients, the issue of ingredients, which has been now found a solution in the new regulation. The new provisions will also enhance GI protection, since they introduce the obligation for member states to disable access from their territory to the main names that breach the protection of a GI name. That's called geo-blocking in the jargon. And this will give producers strong tools in defending their interest. And finally, more sustainable. The new regulation provides incentives for producers and encourages them to include sustainable practices in their GI production. But when we mention sustainability, we're talking about sustainability in the three angles: economic, social, and environmental sustainability. Sustainability practices can be introduced in the product specification on a voluntary basis. We're talking about something which is voluntary basis. And once included there, they become mandatory. And on a voluntary basis, producers can also draw up a sustainability report entailing the description of existing sustainable practices and the impacts in terms of social, environmental, economic or animal welfare commitments. And they will be published by the European Commission, those commitments. Now let me conclude. The enforcement of the GI remains the responsibility of member states. It includes controlling the proper use of registered terms and combating fraudulent production. And the new enforcement rules will apply to all the sectors, all the 3 sectors. The Commission remains responsible for the registrations, main amendments, and cancellations of registrations. And to sum up, common provisions on protection, procedures and sustainability are unified in the new horizontal GI regulation, which allows an easier interpretation. So overall, in our opinion, the credibility of the EUA of the system will be enhanced. And while I think that Mr. De Castro is not there, je vais changer au français pour remercier les deux. Oui, je sais.
I will switch to French to thank the MEP present in the room. I wanted to make a public acknowledgement of in Italian, and I also wanted to thank you publicly, because this is teamwork which was outstanding, and this regulation is of very good quality. So we expect the entry into force in a few weeks.
And again, this is very personal. This is not the European Commission. We have to think on what is next. So now we have a new regulation. This means that for the next couple of years, we are not going to change it. But then I think we have to think, what are we going to do next? And a reflection I want to have to share with you, which is the following. A couple of years ago, we approved the organic regulation. And immediately afterwards, we approved an organic action plan. Maybe with the GIs, we could do something similar. So we have approved the GI regulation, and maybe, it's just a maybe, in the next term, we should collectively think about an action plan to improve GIs, of course with non-legislative measures, because the legislative measures have just been approved. We did that a couple of years ago with the Organic Action Plan, and it worked very well. Again, this is just a reflection. Please do not consider this as a commission, as a position of the Commission, but I think it's our duty to reflect on the future. Now that the legislation is over, I think we have to think about what becomes next. Again, thank you very much. Sorry for the linguistic mess, and I am open to your questions, criticism whatsoever. Thank you very much.
Thanks.